You open your eyes when your body decides it's time. No alarm, no calendar, no one waiting on you. There's one question on your mind. What do I feel like doing today? For roughly 300,000 years, that was simply Tuesday, every single day, for 99% of human existence. And what followed that question looked nothing like the life most of us live now. The average person today spends around 90,000 hours of their life at work, close to a third of every waking hour. But strip away the last few thousand years, and jobs simply weren't a thing. So what filled the day? Start with the evidence. In 1963, anthropologist Richard Lee studied the Dobe Ju / hoansi in Botswana, one of the last groups whose lifestyle still mirrors life before farming. Adults, he found, spent about 2.5 days a week, around 17 hours, actually getting food. Everything else was theirs. And this isn't a one-off. Anthropologists studying the Hadza of Tanzania, the Ashe of Paraguay, the Martu in Australia, totally different continents, kept landing on the same number, 15 to 20 hours a week on pure survival. You're probably working double that. Fair objection. These are modern communities, not ancient humans. But skeletons don't lie. Farmers were shorter, malnourished, with wrecked teeth and spinal arthritis. Pre-agricultural humans were taller, sturdier, healthier. Their bones say plainly, this wasn't a life of endless grinding. Then there's evidence that shouldn't exist if survival was a constant scramble. Art. Chauvet Cave in France, discovered 1994, holds paintings roughly 30,000 years old. Horses, lions, rhinos, rendered with real depth and motion. Someone sat there by firelight for hours, maybe days, painting animals on stone, not to eat, not to survive, just because it meant something. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found shell beads roughly 100,000 years old, each carefully drilled and strung as jewelry. The coast was 20 kilometers away, meaning someone walked 40 kilometers round trip just to gather shells, then spent hours drilling them, all to look good. In Germany, researchers found a 40,000-year-old flute, carved from a vulture's bone. Whoever made it understood pitch and music, not for hunting, for sound. Sites across Europe, Africa, and Asia going back over 100,000 years are packed with objects like this, decorative, intricate, far beyond what survival required. This is what people did once food wasn't a constant emergency. They made things beautiful. So picture a real day. Dawn breaks. Embers from last night still glow. Someone adds wood. Breakfast is whatever's left from yesterday, and it isn't silent, it's social. People talk, loosely plan the day, simply because that's what humans do together. By mid-morning, a small group might head out to hunt or forage, but not every day. If the last hunt went well and food is stored, nobody leaves camp. Instead, the morning goes toward repairing tools, sharpening a spear, weaving a basket. No clock, no boss watching. People do it because skill earns respect. When hunts happen, forget the movie chase scenes. Humans are persistence hunters, jogging behind prey for hours until it overheats, since we're among the few species that can sweat while running long distances. The hunt takes 3 to 6 hours including travel, then butchering and a shared meal. By early afternoon, the day's work is essentially done. What follows is the part modern people struggle to picture: apparent nothing and everything. People rest in the shade, chat, play with kids, groom each other's hair, string beads, carve bone. They nap. Anthropologist James Sussman recorded that Ju / hoansi adults spend around 6 hours daily in what he called social time, not labor, not sleep, just being together. In a world with no money, no police, no contracts, your survival depends entirely on your relationships. That time isn't wasted, it's an investment in staying human. Then night falls, and something shifts. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner studied Ju / hoansi conversations and found daytime talk was practical. Animal tracks, ripe plants, minor disputes. But after dark, 81% of conversation turned to storytelling, origin myths, ancestors, jokes. This, Wiesner argued, is where human culture took root, and sleep wasn't one unbroken block. Records from medieval Europe, backed by 1990s sleep research, show humans once slept in 2 segments: a first sleep of about 4 hours, a quiet waking stretch in the dark, then a second sleep for another 4. So a full day looked roughly like this: 4 to 6 hours on food or tools, about 6 hours of social connection and storytelling, 8 hours of sleep split into two phases, and the rest spent simply resting, watching clouds, existing without needing to prove anything through output. Then, about 10,000 years ago, everything shifted. Communities in the Fertile Crescent started planting crops and domesticating animals. Agriculture had arrived, and it turned out to be a trap. Farming let populations grow. Growing populations demanded more food demanded more farming, and within a few generations there was no turning back. Farming also meant vastly more labor, plowing, planting, weeding, harvesting, defending crops. The skeletal record confirms it. Early farmers worked harder, ate worse, and died younger than the hunter-gatherers before them. Populations kept climbing, and with bigger societies came specialization. Toolmakers, then soldiers, priests, administrators, and eventually employment. The idea that your time now belonged to someone else. By the time cities rose, the old way of living was gone. Today you'll clock roughly 90,000 hours at work over a lifetime. Your ancestors spent a fraction of that. You sleep in one long stretch and call waking at 2 a.m. insomnia. They slept in 2 and used the quiet hours for reflection. You spend years chasing goals, measured by standards someone else invented. They woke up each morning already free, already whole, with nothing left to prove. You squeeze art into whatever's left after the job. They made art because time was simply theirs to spend, and that's what humans naturally reach for. We're not a different species, but the way we live now is so far removed from how we lived for 99% of our history that it might as well be a different life entirely. We traded freedom for food security, leisure for population growth, and time for productivity. And most of us never even realized what was given up because we never got to experience having it.